Hi guys, Ryan Fowler here with the Inner Game Group, Inner Masculine Live, Inner Game Group every Saturday. We have a good one today, and I have been warned in advance that there will be some disagreement on this topic, so let the bloodbath begin. It's okay to be ordinary. We're going to go over this podcast it's a PsyD, doctorate of psychology, who is a professor at Harvard Medical School, talking about it's okay to be ordinary. So we're going to comment on that, and is he full of crap or is he not full of crap? Is there any benefits to believing it's okay to be ordinary? Are there any drawbacks? And we're going to tear each other apart. Just kidding over this. But before we get into that, how about everyone introduce yourselves? Tim, then Jordan, and then Brent, and we'll take it from there.
Yep. Hi, I'm Tim with Tim at clearthattrauma.com. You can reach me there. And like these other gentlemen that are on here, we help you fix your inner game so that you can be the best that you possibly could be.
I'm Jordan Kurtz. I help you end your limiting beliefs to unlock your full potential using hypnosis.
All right.
Hey, how's it going, everyone? Good to be back. My name is Brent, and I'm based in Dallas, Texas. I facilitate sorting out your inner game, as well as combining it with positive masculinity and discipline.
All right. Welcome, everyone, to the show. So, this is a good clip. I think there'll be some disagreement within our audience on this. It's okay, man. It's okay to disagree. You know, yesterday I said something I thought was perfectly fine, which is if a girl flakes on me, it's okay if I flake on her. And everyone's like, you don't have integrity. And it's like, I don't see it that way. But anyways, so it's okay to disagree. I'm not offended by anyone who thinks I don't have integrity if I flake on a girl who first flaked on me.
Yeah. What, dude?
It's okay.
I flake and ghost girls all the time. They do it all the time, too. Who cares?
That's it.
Yeah. So I actually, just to comment on what I was talking about with Teresa yesterday, the reason I adopted this rule is if a girl flakes on me and then she apologizes, she said, you know, I'm sorry, let's meet up again. If I keep on acting with integrity while she keeps flaking on me, I feel disrespected. So I actually feel much better about myself. It's like, okay, she's on that rule set. I'm going to be on the rule set too. I actually feel much better about myself. I don't know why, but I'm going with it. Anyways, honestly, flaky girls, they don't last long regardless. You know, they're not girlfriend material. No way. Anyways, before we dive into the actual clip here, innermasculine.com/free ebook you can see on my screen, and that ebook is free. It lets you know all the fundamentals of how our subconscious mind works and why it holds us back. Why do people procrastinate? Why do people self-sabotage? Why do we have anxiety? Why do we have insecurities, limiting beliefs, doubt? Why do we have trapped, stuck anger towards other people? And we say, hey, if I just go up and approach 100 attractive girls, I'll probably get a girlfriend. Why don't I do it? And why is it so hard to do? Because logically that makes sense and it's probably true. Why don't we do it then? Why don't we start the side hustle that can grow into a business and then you can work remote and live anywhere in the world like I do? Why don't we do it? Why are people stuck? Why do people struggle, depressed, all of it? All these things that don't serve us in the long run. Why do we do it? This ebook explains why. You're going to know how the subconscious mind develops. You're going to know how our subconscious influences our behavior in the world today. 90 to 95% of our choices, our decisions in life are subconscious. Even if you don't want to make those decisions, you're still making them unless you understand the subconscious mind. So the ebook's free. Just go there. You can get it. And now we will move on. And it's just a 1 hour read. There's no fluff. It's just all stone cold hard facts.
It's meaty, baby. It's meaty.
It is all meat, no fat. Just enough fat to be tasty. All right. So let's go to this clip. You got to have a little marbling in your fat, you know, or in your meat. And here is, now what's interesting is, see, the guy has a doctorate and he's a professor at Harvard. So obviously he's not an ordinary guy, but he's talking about it's okay to be ordinary. I find that interesting. So let's dive in. And Tim, I'm going to let you pay referee because I've watched some of this clip, not all of it. You're more familiar with the whole thing. So when you say stop or go to this part, just let us know, Tim.
And by the way, anybody can jump in and say stop and say, I want to talk about that. So
yeah, of course.
Yep.
But you're going to tell us where the interesting timestamp.
Yeah, I'll get us on the other ones.
All right, rock and roll. Here we go.
I mean, I'm really glad. And
his hair is not ordinary on the right, for sure.
You know, it's funny. There's something about simply orienting ourselves in this direction that itself is healing and helpful. I remember I was working on the book and I was quite beyond deadlines because I kept wanting to research something new, something else interesting that I'd come across. And I sent an email to my editor and I said, well, I have good news and bad news. The good news is focusing on this topic is really useful. I'm seeing my own self-esteem preoccupations loosen up a little bit. I'm better able to show up in the moment. I'm feeling more connected in my relationships. I'm less worried about how I'm doing in the world. And another bad news, of course, is who needs to be the author of yet another book if you're not doing it for self-esteem? So I'll send you back the advance. And she wrote back to me saying, no, I think this is a worthy enterprise. And I said, I was kidding, but not entirely. There is something about pointing our nose in this direction and just trying to, you're just noticing the ways in which getting hooked on specialness, attractiveness, competence, whatever it is, getting hooked on these things that we do to bolster our self-esteem actually make us really unhappy. And when we can begin to let it go, it's like dropping a hot coal. It's a relief.
Okay, so before we move on, for those in the group, they're going to argue, say this isn't the right belief system to have. I mean, if you say it, you don't have to. Pay attention to this part here. Here's the benefits. So this is my ammo up front to argue with anyone who disagrees with me. We'll keep going.
Yeah, there were so many, like as I go through my life, so many places where there is this energy expenditure that I wasn't even aware of. Like the story I've had since the pandemic started is I'm 10 pounds overweight. And one of the things I do as a health coach, and I like to, live, my principles. And so I was like resisting getting new headshots taken. And I like to wear clothes so I don't have to tuck things in. And I just realized like I'm going through life just with a emotional girdle on to kind of hide the fact. And since I read the title of your book, I'm like noticing I'm walking around, my belly's out. I'm not trying to, to pretend. I'm like, what if it's okay? Like, what if I don't have to have the perfect body? Which I haven't had, by the way, arguably since I was 17, but it didn't stop me from spending energy bemoaning the fact.
Right. And we all do. We all have, one of the things that I
let's pause it there real quick.
Is
okay.
In the beginning of this part that you played, Ryan, that starts at 1 minute. And this is the first cue, by the way, this 6-minute section that was pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
We would look at somebody who is at Harvard and who is a PsyD and teaches there since the 80s, that this is a fellow who has tremendous self-esteem, tremendous put-togetherness, tremendous whatever, and he's writing a book. And while he's writing this book, the things that he's going through are helping him improve his self-esteem. You would think a person like this already has solid self-esteem. And then the other guy responds about the extra baggage and energy that it requires just to be him. So super interesting that these people that other people would look up to as being the expert also struggle with, and I don't like the title ordinary, we'll get into that a little bit later, but they struggle with what they think is normal or what they think is ordinary and what they think is acceptable. So in their minds, he's expending a lot of energy trying to figure out how to be ordinary.
Yeah. Now, I want to comment here and say, being okay with being ordinary does not mean you don't pursue excellence.
Correct.
I absolutely think you should pursue excellence. My message, and I actually put this in people's core, and by the way, a lot of my clients double their income or increase their income by 50%. They quit weed, they quit porn. One guy was a salesperson. Out of 200, he was second from the bottom. The bottom guy left. He was bottom salespeople person then. I did one session. 5 months later, he's number 7, top 4%. From bottom to top 4%. Brent, you went from a guy who couldn't hold a job to solid 6 figures. You're a homeowner now, killing it with dating, women, fitness, everything, across the board. Jordan, valedictorian of your high school. Tim is a high performing, I don't know if executive is the right word, but you do some pretty, hefty projects where you're setting up stores. You're a former general manager of a Walmart, which is I don't know, $400 million facility or however much.
About 130 million.
$130 million facility. Well into the six figures for a long time. Not just like 100,000, but like way above that. Same with me. Top 5% income earner. So, I wrote a book with a law professor. So we have a lot of high performers here. And I'll tell you, the reason I like It's Okay to Be Ordinary is it removes all of the anxiety, all of the emotional pain, all of the resistance, procrastination, everything else that's tied to the insecurities we have of not being enough.
Correct.
Because it screws so many things up when you feel you're not good enough. And our brain is designed to pursue pleasure, but the strongest above all, avoid pain. And so many people are stuck in their basement, playing video games all day, being unproductive, getting out of shape, whatever. And what is behind that deep down is toxic shame, which they feel not good enough. So what we do is we remove that, and now we say, all this pain is gone. So if you try and fail, it's okay. Now go after what you want, because our brain is wired to pursue pleasure. So if you maximize our brain's ability to do hard work and pursue pleasure, which involves believing your ability and value, keep yourself from having too much easy pleasure that then removes any motivation you have to go after what you want, and then just get rid of all this stuff that holds you back. It now puts you at a point where you are optimized to kick some maximum ass in life. And I see it with my clients over and over and over again. I have like 19 video testimonials on my website now. And these guys are like, several of them doubled their income. I right off the top of my head, Anoop V, watch his video. He doubled his income in like a year. Ryan Apollo overcame his approach anxiety with self-hypnosis. I showed him how to do that. His income's 2.5 times what it was. He's one of the testimonials. He's Elevate Cyber. He teaches cybersecurity. He does cybersecurity. Just a lot of guys became really high performers. And it's not, should we settle for being ordinary? No. But if we are ordinary, don't feel bad about it, because that shame binds you to being ordinary. That's
now one of the things that I'll throw out there is that I didn't like the title of this as much as I liked the content. And I wish they had changed the title to "It is Awesome to Be Authentic." And whatever that authenticity brings, that's what's good enough.
And it's okay to be flawed.
Yep.
It's okay to suck at some things.
Who isn't?
But I also say, listen, you go after what you want. Don't go after what anyone else says you should want, because that causes all sorts of problems too. I should want this. I should want that. That actually has you reject part of your identity when you do that. So screw that. You chase excellence the way you want to chase it, but you don't need to achieve it to not be a loser. So, and honestly, if you don't have pain and you have all the motivation and no pain, no fear of failure holding you back, eventually you're going to get what you want, as long as you're willing to put in the work. Anyways, that's my take. Anyone else have a comment?
Sure. So I thought the question was interesting. Is it okay? So I thought about it from the perspective of who's asking that question.
Yeah.
Is it okay? And my interpretation of that is you're kind of asking yourself, am I okay to be a certain way? And the nature, I think, of the question is slightly flawed, because it's not, we talk a lot about that inner game, and a component of that is there's nothing that you have to do to have your own, to have value, to have your own validation, approval, and love. And so
100%.
if you're asking, am I okay because of this, you're already kind of going down the wrong path. So it's like, it's not, are you okay with being ordinary? It's the wrong question, because then you're assuming that you're assuming that there's something you have to do to be okay. And that's kind of, that's too far. So that's what I thought.
I agree.
Yep. 100%. Well said.
It, you know, how I put it is we have intrinsic value. We don't need to do anything to have intrinsic value. But at the same time, yeah, you got to work hard to get what you want. And if you don't work hard, you won't get it, you know. But yeah, I agree with you there. Ryan Harrison, look at this. You know, this is a guy who knows 1 month plus free of all addiction. So the inner stuff makes a huge difference.
Go Ryan, go. Go Ryan, go. Congratulations.
Using these methods, I've seen it hundreds of times. I've helped people with it hundreds of times. I've done it on myself. There's video. If you go to my my old website, pfshield.com, it's still up. Go to the video section and watch video of me from 15 years ago before I cleared my trauma. I'm just like this, like very weak energy compared
intellectual,
to how
quiet nerd.
Yeah, just a very smart guy. Always been very smart, but quiet nerd. Yeah, please don't hurt me, etc. Please, I don't want to say anything to offend anyone. That type of thing. And when I learned I am enough as I am, I have massive value intrinsically just for who I am. And I can get anything I want if I work hard enough for it, if I keep going, if I practice, learn, and grow. Within 2 years, my income doubled. And I wasn't even trying to double it. I just felt a lot better. And then I actually tried and I doubled it again. And so this is not, I do kind of agree with you guys that it's okay to be ordinary. Doesn't quite frame it right for me. It's like you have intrinsic value just for who you are. But remove that pain tied to if I fail, I'm a loser. If I try and it doesn't work out, I'm not good enough. Get rid of that, because that causes just so many. It causes addiction. If you feel ashamed for who you are, we pursue pleasure. We avoid pain. Above all, avoid pain. We use pleasure to cover pain. And so now we have to introduce all these coping mechanisms to deal with our insecurities, and it wastes energy that could be used being productive. We'll keep going. Oh, and should we just keep playing at this point, Tim, or skip ahead?
Because 606 was the place it began. We're there now.
Yeah, Ryan, I have caffeine in the morning. Whatever. But if you kick it, then great. He has one more comment. Intrinsic value is really amazing. It starts to set in. It's some people can clear their toxic chain very quickly. Other people have toxic chain like so ingrained. My childhood was just constant psychological warfare against me, making me feel worthless. And it took about 2 months of self-hypnosis to really get rid of it all.
Well, you could do it.
It's still amazingly rapid because I did 15 years of therapy before that. Didn't fix it all. So go ahead,
Ryan. Well, in response to Ryan Harrison's comment, it's not you don't really wrap your head around it. That's still kind of framing the question like you're going towards something as opposed to something you already have.
That's true.
That's what I think really what hypnosis is doing is we're stripping away things that are blocking your ability to see that.
Yeah, so throw Ryan's comment back up there. Throw Ryan's comment back up there.
I 100% agree, Jordan.
Yeah.
So the thing that we're talking about, Ryan, and you're right on the money, is that those, people who are toxically shamed in their youth develop the subconscious routines that all of us are talking about that continue to have you search the rest of your life to just get to ordinary because you never feel good enough. You're angry, or you don't feel safe, or you don't belong to a group that you're trying to find. So all of those things that are going on make it nearly impossible for you to wrap your head around how to have that inner value because you didn't develop it when you were young. Just like Jordan says, the thing you need to get to is that authentic self where you do have that value and you don't need anybody else's word to give you that value. but you're right. It is really tough to wrap your head around what that ordinary even looks like.
Yeah. Now, with that said, for example, one of the we use a lot of symbolic imagery in hypnosis because our subconscious mind a subconscious mind as a pattern recognition and an analogy machine intrinsically understands or naturally understands symbolic imagery. And one of the things I do is under hypnosis, I have people look down in their chest and they see a shining jewel or some priceless treasure there. And I have them say, this jewel is a real authentic me. I could not see it before because of the lies that covered it up, but I see it clearly now. Well, what that means, it's been there all along. The real you's been there all along. You just had all this crap on top that you couldn't really embrace and see your true value. But when you just realize that the real you is the best part of you, you're good enough just for who you are. There's not, and you can go after what you want. There's nothing holding you back, and then you just take off. I've seen it hundreds of times. Yeah. So, intrinsic value. I'm more intrinsic value than it's okay to be ordinary, but I totally get where this guy's coming from. It's like, listen, don't be freaking out about all your flaws and everything because it's just counterproductive and it makes you unhappy. Now, we're going to go back to this. Is there any part of this that you would like to skip ahead to or just keep playing, Tim?
No, if you played it 6 minutes and go to about 10, they got we're not even going to make it through it. They got so much good meat in this little part here because you're playing it faster. It'll probably take us 3 minutes to get through, but
I'm playing at 1 1/4.
Yeah.
All right, here we go.
So where does this come from? This sort of pathological thing that causes so much suffering. Why, are we hardwired for it?
Yeah, it appears so. That as modern psychologists understand the mind and in close relationship the brain, the brain did not evolve to make us happy. That simply wasn't on the agenda. The brain evolved over millions of years of natural selection to enhance survival, and particularly to enhance the capacity to successfully reproduce, pass on your genes, and have your offspring.
Did you want it paused? I'm sorry.
Yeah, so think about the tribe as they're speaking now for the next couple of minutes. They very much get into that survival, reproduction, keep your seed going type of mentality at a core level.
Yeah, and just to add to that, being accepted within and belonging to a tribe greatly facilitated survival.
Yes.
Being disapproved of, if you're disapproved of by the tribe, are you going to be able to mate with any of the women in the tribe? No, they're going to shun you. Or you're going to have a hunting accident. No one in the tribe likes you, so there's a hunting accident where you find a spear in the back of your neck accidentally. Stuff like that. We'll keep going.
Offspring pass on their genes because while we might imagine that there were happy hominids hanging around with none of these concerns, as it turns out evolutionarily, back in the day, in the African savannah, as it turns out evolutionarily, they're not our ancestors because they didn't get to reproduce as well as the ones who are preoccupied with this. Concretely, the way this plays out is if you were to go to Africa, for example, and go around with a naturalist, the so-called safari, it's really riding with a naturalist in a Jeep, they'll point out this pattern over and over and over in a remarkable array of species. There's a dominant male surrounded by literally a harem of reproductively promising females. And over there in the next field is usually a group of somewhat younger males doing the species-specific equivalent of playing basketball, right? Trying to hone their skills so they could be dominant. Now, what's up with this? Why would dominance be such a big deal? Why do so many species organize themselves into pecking orders? In fact, we use the phrase pecking order to describe human hierarchies, even though it comes from birds that do this. Crickets do it. Children at age 4 do it. The research is abundantly clear that social species do this stuff. Well, why? Well, as it turns out, in general, if you have dominance in any one of these various pecking orders, the chances of you successfully reproducing and passing on your genes are greater. So the ones who weren't invested in proving their stuff basically didn't get to reproduce quite as much. And that's why we've inherited these brains that are quite concerned with it. And the way it shows up in humans is not necessarily, going like this, like the chimpanzees do, or literally stealing the food from the others like so many other animals do. But the way it shows up in us is with concerns about self-esteem. It's all these thoughts that pass through our minds each day about how am I doing? Am I doing as well as he or she is? Or we're comparing ourselves sometimes not to other people in our lives, but to some inner standard. Am I the kind of father I should be? What's my image of fathering? What was my father like? Am I the kind of health coach I should be? Am I the kind of psychologist I should be? Am I the kind of husband I should be? And on and on and on. So we're either comparing ourselves to an inner image or making comparisons with other people. And
So we can stop there for a second.
Yeah, this is massively influenced
in
by
there.
our upbringing. This
So
is
I want to
massively
talk about
influenced.
that survival thing.
Yeah.
Not only is that alpha personality trying to survive, within the harem of reproducers around this alpha personality are also trying to figure out their pecking order and who gets that seed to make their progeny go forward, along with those folks over there playing basketball, trying to hone their skills. They're trying to figure out how to survive. And even the weakest of them, who may be toxically shamed at this point, for Ryan Harrison's point, that person's now trying to figure out how to survive. That happens in our world today. The full-blown narcissist is the ultimate survivalist. They're trying to figure out how to fit in and how to survive because they are massively damaged. And of course, their method is to damage those around them so that they can be bigger in their own minds.
And
so
they also
this goes
project
not
an
only for
illusion
the
to the
alpha
world.
male or alpha personality, but also the very damaged among us, which makes us even worse.
Yeah. Yeah, and narcissists do all that while they project this illusion of perfection to the world.
Correct. Because they think that's what ordinary is or good is or whatever.
Yeah, to be acceptable, I have to be perfect. And a lot of reason people are perfectionistic is they're like, unless it's perfect, it's not good enough. It's going to suck if it ain't perfect. So it has to be perfect. Causes all sorts of anxiety, everything. And ironically, all of this anxiety, insecurities actually inhibits your ability to become more successful. But we'll keep going. Although, if you read my ebook, you'll see there is a subset of people who are very driven because of their toxic shame, but then they tend to lead miserable lives. Well, they do. Yeah. But that's a whole nother discussion. I don't want to get off on too many tangents. We'll keep going.
Sometimes this, when I've spoken to people about this, they're taken back. They say, no, I don't compare myself to other people. And I'll ask them, well, describe to me one of your strengths. And they'll say, well, I'm pretty athletic. And they'll say, well, how do you know you're athletic? Well, it's by comparing ourselves to the other people who I think of as not so athletic. And the same is true for being tall or being thin or being kind or whatever it is. We're comparing ourselves in some way to others. And that's how we come to these narratives and these conclusions about ourselves. And, what happens is once we begin to look at this with some care, most of us notice with some horror, oh my gosh, it's happening all day long. Some thought of, hey, I'm doing well or I'm not doing well is entering my mind.
Okay.
This happens all day long to toxically shamed, and maybe just even normal people too, but specifically those trying to fit in, those people like the other fellow, the bald head fella said earlier, I think his name is Howie, that he spends all day a lot of energy with this mental girdle around his head,
emotional
trying
girdle.
to fit in and trying to figure out where he belongs. So this Doc Siegel is talking here exactly to that point. And Ryan said it is exhausting all day long to try to figure out how you measure up to what you think or what society makes as the standard.
And Tim, you remember so I've known Tim since 2005, and Tim used to, work with me at my business and out of my home. And Tim, do you remember coming in and I'd sleep in till noon?
Well, I'd usually be there about 8 or 9 in the morning, and Ryan would finally come out scratching his balls at about, I don't know, noon to 1 o'clock.
Because I was exhausted because of toxic shame.
Yeah. Yep.
It wears you out. All my anxiety, all of that wore me out.
Yep. Yeah.
And, I stayed up really late. And the reason I stayed up really late is I couldn't fall asleep because of anxiety. Stuff like that.
It's a never-ending circular argument in your head.
Yeah, it's crazy. Anyone else have any comments?
Sure.
Brent, Jordan.
So,
all right, Go
I'm
ahead.
thinking that it's not that comparison itself is the issue. It's just to be clear, like if you see someone who's athletic and you say, "Oh, I'm not athletic because I'm not like them," well, that might be an accurate statement, but you could, if you're looking up to someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger, and I'll say, "Oh, I want to be like him because he's really healthy and fit, and he inspires me." You could take that route,
That's
or you
cool.
could say, "Oh, I'm never going to be like him because I'm not capable of achieving his physique, his awards, his that." So there's two. It's not that we use comparisons all the time. There's nothing inherently wrong with that itself, but if you're someone who has a lot of shame inside of you, the comparison is always going to be, I'm not better than that person. But if you believe in yourself,
I'm not better, and therefore,
Yeah.
because I'm not better, then what?
Not better. I'm not sure where
I'm
you're
not good
going with
enough.
that.
I'm not as good as him,
Yeah,
so I'm
yeah.
not good enough.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
And
so,
then you feel like crap.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead, Brent. That's all I want to say.
okay. I mean, I just wanted to say you can get into a lot of trouble with comparison. You could do it from a negative point of view, which a lot of people do, and it will bring yourself down. It will make you feel bad, and you'll get into a whole negative tailwind. But once you know you are enough, comparison can be a good thing. You know what you got to work on. It could be goal oriented. It's just a warning, because I've gotten myself into a lot of trouble with comparison, and it'll really bring you down fast.
Yeah, and a good example I just thought of is if you're watching the show and you're thinking to yourself, "Oh, I could never be like one of the four gentlemen on the show. I can never get my inner game that way." That's a toxic shame kind of lens. But if you're watching us and you go, "You know what? I think I can get to where those gentlemen are at. I think that's possible because they're showing it, and they've been showing it for many episodes now. I think that there's something to that." Then that kind of belief drives you forward to improve.
And
Yeah.
why not just have your own standard of excellence, your own thing you want, and instead of trying to be like us, be the best person you want to be.
Exactly.
Well, I don't think those are mutually exclusive. I meant more like taking inspiration from, because we've all healed our inner game.
Yeah.
And so if you look at inspiration, say, I want to take what that person has done and make it my own. That can be like, you can do both, right?
Yeah,
We look at other people as good examples and go, "Oh, I want to be." That's why we say I want to be like them, but not be them.
Yeah. Now, question I have for all of you guys. Can we believe it's okay to be ordinary and yet still be super motivated to strive for excellence? Can we have both those beliefs in us?
Again, I'm going to rechange that instead of ordinary, because we don't know what ordinary is. If you talk to Dave Ramsey, he'll tell you normal is broke and in debt.
Yeah.
Right. That's the normal, ordinary American is broke and in debt.
Yeah, fat.
So I really wanted this topic of this particular video this guy made to be, it is awesome to be authentic, because just like Jordan's saying, if you're authentic, you have that value, as Ryan mentions. And then as Brent said, you won't have to compare yourself to someone else because you won't care what that person is, other than, and now this leads back to Ryan's thing, is once you are authentic and you have that solid inner game, now you identify what it is you want to go get. And you start go getting that particular thing, not comparing yourself to somebody because they got it and you don't, but you're now in the mindset of, how is it I go get that? How is it I go achieve what now I recognize as something I think is valuable and I want to go get? That's what I like about authenticity. I don't like the word ordinary. I don't like the word normal, because I have never been normal my whole life. One, I don't have a normal head of hair like all of my friends on this podcast, or probably many people watching, but I do have one just like this guy right here. So I told myself years ago, when I didn't have this great follicular stuff going on my head here, that there are some great heads out there, and the others God just covers with hair, right? So whatever it is, you tell yourself. But I never wanted to be ordinary. I really didn't care what people think, except for my boss. The guy, the girl that's paying me money is the person that I paid attention to, because they're going to help me get more money, right?
True.
And more positions of responsibility and challenges and ways that I can grow to make myself better.
Very good, Tim. So does anyone have comments on this comment by Lottery Guru? He thinks being ordinary in these times is dangerous. Things are different. We have to change with the world. What are you guys' comments on this?
I mean, I totally agree. If you're ordinary now, you're broke, you're stupid, and you're fat. Like, that's going to be a miserable life.
Okay.
Yeah, on the money.
So how do you rectify that with, or how do you consolidate that or make that congruent with what we're saying?
Well, you need to obviously accept and be okay with the situation you're in, but you also need to work to strive to improve the situation too, right?
Okay. And accepting it, what does that look like, Brent? What does it look like internally? Like, what's a good belief system?
You need to be, I don't know, you just need to be, I guess, obviously you need to be, you are enough, and then strive to level up. I mean, I don't know, it's just a tough question to answer, to be honest, but
I know I'm grilling you, baby. Hey, you said you're going to give me pushback.
well, I think it's okay to be temporarily average or temporarily ordinary, but you can always strive to improve.
Yeah.
Don't be average for 20 years, obviously.
So let's look at what Lottery Guru is saying. These times we live in are very dangerous. They're probably just as dangerous as we have had before, but there's now a different type of danger that many people are seeing out there. Social media is not doing a great job of bringing the average or the ordinary forward. What we're seeing is this amazing and titillated type of things in these people that are, quite frankly, a bit out of control because of their toxic shame. So we have to change with the world. I don't know. We probably need to stay away from that. But let's talk about a fellow who's running for president. And most people would think I would jump to Donald Trump, but I'm not. I'm going to jump to a guy named Vivek Ramaswamy.
Oh, yep.
This guy has had a solid inner game upbringing. He is so solid that his answers, if you notice, when people confront him with something they're going to catch him on, they can't catch him because he's already thought through intellectually why that person may be doing, and he never denigrates or puts down the person that he's talking to, because he doesn't have to put them down to give himself worth. He's just going to present the intellectual answer that he thinks that this person may connect with, and quite frankly, build them up and bring them together to talk, to heal, to whatever. So these are dangerous times, but so is being a caveman and trying to survive and eat and live in the cold or the hot or whatever. But now there's other dangers going on around us. And I think the biggest danger, and Ryan said this a couple of years ago in one of his videos, is the epidemic of modern times, and that is toxic shame.
Correct. Now, I want to comment on. Go ahead.
I want to comment on the question, because I feel like when we talk about really general terms like normal, average, ordinary, we always see it from what it. I don't think there's a common definition of ordinary. I mean, if you're talking about statistical averages, that's different, but we all have a like if I'm born into a particularly wealthy family and I'm surrounded by wealth and entrepreneurship, then that might be my ordinary.
Yeah.
And so that's different if I'm surrounded by a lot of poverty, war or turmoil or things like that. That might be my normal. And so we have to ask the question then, like, what's in your subconscious mind? How does it relate to that? If you have a subconscious mind which drives you to be a certain way, that'll change what you think of as ordinary. And so I feel like if you're thinking, oh, if I am ordinary, I can't handle the stress of the world, then that's the way you think of as ordinary, versus someone who is comfortable with themselves and has designed their life, right? Belief engineer designed their life so that they can handle the stresses of the world, then they might just find that to be ordinary, because their ordinary is resilience to the world. And so if you're thinking ordinary isn't enough, then maybe you have to look and see, well, why isn't what I think of as ordinary? Because ordinary has no definition. It's just common, basically.
Yeah.
And so that's, so what does your subconscious mind see as common? And so, you can change that, right? And that's what we help you do.
Yes.
Okay. So
Well
I
said.
want, yeah, thank you, Jordan. I want to comment on this too. And here's something that's very, very, very important for our audience to understand. How you perform in the outer world is different from belief systems. Meaning what a lot of people tell themselves is, I don't feel good enough. I'm not, it sucks being ordinary, average. I'm a loser, whatever, but I'm going to go out and kick a bunch of ass, and I'm going to become good enough, and I'm going to earn 6 figures, get buff, all this other stuff, and then I'll feel good enough. 2 issues with that. For about 80% of people, that belief system, how our subconscious mind works is we have something called identity, core identity. Now, this is neuroscience. You can read chapter 2 of Atomic Habits. It sold 15 million copies worldwide. It's well backed by all this neuroscience, psychology research. Our subconscious mind, which is in charge of 95% of our decision making, pulls us to where it thinks we should be. And where it thinks we should be is our identity. So if you feel not, Brene Brown, professor of at University of Houston, one of the world's foremost experts on toxic shame, says if we call ourselves stupid or losers or liars, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, because whatever you believe you are inside, your subconscious mind pulls you there and keeps you there. There's a book written by psychologist, very famous book, very famous psychologist, John Bradshaw, Healing the Shame That Binds You. And he was an alcoholic because he felt he wasn't good enough, and that was reinforced by his drinking. See, I drank again. I really am a loser. That kept him an alcoholic. How he escaped is he realized he had intrinsic value, and he got rid of this toxic shame like we do. So some people, about 20% of people, they have a belief, I can get what I want even though I'm worthless, but I can still get what I want. And then they become massively successful. And this is Marilyn Monroe. This is Robin Williams. This is Kurt Cobain. They all self-deleted because even though they got all this wealth and fame and success and achievement, they still felt terrible. And what you want to understand about subconscious belief systems is unless you use special techniques to change them, you do something effective to change them, the outward success doesn't change how you feel inside. For 80% of people, you're going to stay small with these beliefs. Your identity is you're no good, and your subconscious keeps you there. Whereas, and you'll notice this, people who think they're amazing, think they're champions, think they're awesome. That's how Arnold Schwarzenegger thinks. President Trump, does he put down anything he does? Would he ever call himself a loser? No, everything he's like, this can be huge. This can be amazing. I'm the best. This is the best. Everything I do is the best. It's not a coincidence. He's a multi-billionaire. Love him or hate him, that's just straight up facts. What you believe about your identity, read chapter 2 of Atomic Habits, is where you will gravitate in the outer world. So if you are some guy 80 pounds overweight, doesn't have a job, playing videos all day in your mom's basement, you need to adopt an inner world core belief system. You know what? I am a champion. What that's going to do is that will make your subconscious push you in the direction of actually becoming a champion. This is just straight up neuroscience. I can quote from Atomic Habits. Identity-based habits. He said, what we do, our behavior is simply a reflection of our inner identity, who we believe we are.
Yep.
So when we say you are enough as you are, you have massive value just for who you are. The more you do anything, the better you get. You're just practicing, learning, and growing until you get enough skill to get whatever you want. These are beliefs that if they're in your core, they actually have your subconscious moving you towards success, moving you to outwardly become the person you believe you are inside, which is good enough, awesome, amazing, whatever. You still got to do the work. We want to put realistic belief systems. Hey, to get what you want, you got to work for it. But when you work for it, you'll eventually get it. We got to put all that in you. But when we're talking about it's okay to be, and again, I don't like the term either, it's okay to be ordinary. I just say intrinsic value, massive value. You can get whatever you want if you work for it. These belief systems that are in you are the fuel that lead you to excellence. And part of that fuel is to understand maybe you are an 80-pound overweight guy in your mom's basement playing games all day. But you know what? Deep down, you're like, I'm better than this. I really can kick ass. I really do have that. Even who I am right now in this basement, the outside world judges me a loser. You get the belief system in you. You know what? I am pretty awesome. You're now going to do things that are a match for that. And then you will become awesome. So you got to get the belief system in you. And if you believe you're a loser, it's for 80% of people, it's going to hold you there. For 20%, they're going to become successful, but still be miserable. Either way, it's lose-lose.
Yeah.
So the reason we talk about this isn't that if you are average or mediocre, you're not going to, that's advantageous to be average or mediocre. But if you believe you are good enough, it serves you. It helps you out of that pit. It just does. I've done it hundreds and hundreds of times for people. Watch my freaking testimonials. I've done it for myself. It's just how it works. If you want to kick ass in life, this is a belief system that gets you there, straight up. Any other comments? Perry Ziku, my man.
I'm just gonna add something to what you just went over. And the key is you don't have to be where you are forever. You don't have to be there tomorrow. You don't have to be there next week. You can improve. Now, the key is to get that inner game squared away. And I want to bring out something Ryan, he brushed right over, not meaningly. It's easy, is that it takes a lot of work to look in. If you are, and I'll use his example, an 80-pound guy playing video games all day long in his mother's basement. And by the way, it's not all day long because you're 80 pounds overweight, because you're also spending some of that time shoving food in your face to make you feel better.
And why do people do that? To make them feel better, because they feel not good enough. Right. That's the problem.
And I will say it's not their fault for having gotten there, but it is their fault for staying there.
True.
They have to put the work in, number one, to look internally and admit that you're 80 pounds overweight, living in your mom's basement. By the way, living in your mom's basement is not a bad thing. Rent might be cheap, might be in a great part of town. You might be in the basement of a mansion, who knows? But
true.
The key is that you're playing video games all day and eating food all day long and not getting anywhere. So it takes a lot of hard work to look inside. In fact, one of the things when I have a session with people, the hardest thing for them to do throughout the whole session is that dive to the 5 prior to the session. It is tremendously difficult, not only to understand why you are where you are, but that you admit it and that you start recognizing what's holding you back. So there is a lot of hard work in going from wherever you are to wherever you want to be. Robin Williams spent a tremendous amount of effort covering up his toxic shame and becoming probably one of the best comedians in the world. But it also took him out because he never achieved what he wanted to achieve, and that was happiness. And he
is an alcoholic for a while, and just, he did overcome that. So, comments by anyone else? And is there
You're on mute,
any
you're on
other
mute,
part
Brent.
we should- Go ahead.
Now let me hop in. I can now answer your question, Ryan.
Okay.
So when I was average and ordinary, how we got out of that was we programmed positive self-beliefs in there. So even
Yep.
though I was ordinary, I knew internally I was extraordinary. And that's
Yeah.
how we pulled myself out of there. So there you
Bingo.
go, bud.
So
Yep.
your external circumstances don't define your value.
Absolutely.
That's
Yep.
right.
Exactly.
You're like, I'm good enough now. I'm awesome now. I have massive value now. I can get what I want if I work for it. We put that in you, even though your circumstances didn't reflect that. But then your circumstances changed to reflect that because your belief system drove just, I'm going to do this, man. I got this belief system, and it just motivates you to get there. And then you got there.
Right. I knew I was the man before I became the man.
Bingo.
And now you are the
Yep.
man.
Earn money. You are the man.
Can I just can I brag a little bit about you?
Go ahead, brother.
Dude, Brent has like the sweetest deal. Can I tell him about your car, how your car selling thing? Is that okay to talk about that?
Yeah, just don't go into specifics, but yeah, it's cool.
Okay, he's found a way to acquire Hyundais and fix them up and sell them for a massive profit. So in addition to your day job, which pays quite well, you just have side hustles. You're just killing it on. I mean, and you're not even, I mean, I didn't hit six figures till I was like early 30s. And you beat me by like 5 years, man, or like 3 or 4 years, you know. I mean, you're just killing it now. And honestly, like the girls you date, like the girlfriends you've had, like all cute girls, like totally into you, you know. Yeah, man. Yeah, you're killing it. So belief system's everything, man.
Right,
you know,
but,
you got your master mechanic, you know.
Yeah, but I'm
certified
here.
hypnotist. What's up?
I'm here because you went through all the BS to learn about inner game and hypnosis, and you gave me that shortcut. We started doing the work on me when I was 26.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank God for you. I'm where I'm at now. You know, you saved me at least 20, 30 years. And that's the power of what you're doing. You know, the hypnosis, the inner game is cutting that learning curve by, imagine that, saving 2 decades. You saved me 2 decades of my life and my progress, brother. Seriously.
Thank you, and you're welcome.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that's the thing. See, I used to be, by many definitions, a loser. You know, I had a business fail, and at 28 or 29, at about 28, I had to move back in with my parents. My business failed. My Lexus got repoed. I couldn't pay rent. And I lived with my parents for almost 2 years while I was getting my second business launched and up and running. And I felt like a total loser for a good 6 months. And then I didn't make any money for 6 months. And I was making like $1,000 a month, $1,500 a month for like a year and a half, living with my parents, you know, didn't have my own car. So, but if I did not go through that period of suffering combined with my upbringing and everything else, I would not have searched for a solution until I found it, healed my inner world, and now changing the lives of hundreds and soon thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of millions. It's going there.
Yep.
I wouldn't have been there unless I knew what it was like to be a loser. So if you guys feel like a loser now, there may be a purpose to it. You don't want to stay there, but there was a purpose to it for me. You know, I felt like a loser when my first business failed. Was I a loser? No, I was a rock star in training and didn't know it.
There you go.
You know, look at it that way. You know, where you are now is a flash in eternity. It's a flash in time. And there are lessons to be learned from that. Learn the lessons, move forward towards your greatness. Your adversity does not define you. Get the good belief systems in you, learn these hard lessons, do the work, have that pain propel you to greatness, you know, and you realize you never were a loser.
So the key is you fix your inner game, you build your inner frame, and then you move forward with tremendous success. And when I say success, it might be financial, it might be familial, it might be partner-wise, like finding a good girl, good man, whatever. And success is whatever you define success to be. It doesn't have to be 6 figures. It doesn't have to be 10 figures. It might be 20 figures. Who knows? But it doesn't have to be some definition that society says is success. Success is now defined by you. I was watching a Peter Santanello video of this fellow who lives in Eastern Kentucky, and he makes just enough money to live, and he lives off the land, and he runs around in his bare feet, and he's got his horses in his cabin, and he's got no electricity, and to him, he's happy and he's successful. He's wired to just be happy and experience joy. That's his definition. More power to you, buddy. You make your own definition once you are authentic.
He'll never be a rock star with the sold out stadiums and hundreds of millions of records sold, but he'll also never self-delete like some of those rock stars have. Think about that.
Quite frankly, a sold out stadium with, cheering fans is not his definition of success.
Yeah, someone else's. And if someone else likes that, go for it.
Yep, 100%.
Awesome.
So
yeah. So is there any other important part? Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll add on. So I like that you start, like you're talking about, like, what is your own definition of this thing? And so it goes back to that comment of, like, what do you consider ordinary? Mm-hmm. And I there's a concept in meditation of observation over engagement. And so it's all back to that judgment thing. If you're not, like, if you are judging yourself because you're ordinary, you're putting your own, it's like you're putting your own constraints on yourself, because the way you see yourself is ordinary, and therefore that is bad. And that means it's almost like it's self-fulfilling. It's like you see yourself as ordinary, you think that's bad, therefore I am bad, therefore, and you have to, the only way you break that cycle is you kind of have to step out of that label, and you have to, like, when your inner game is healed, that it's not something you have to do to have value. It's just something you have. Gold, like, if you imagine a gold bar, it has value because it's gold. It's not because the gold, it's because it's a mineral that can be used for a lot of different things. But it's not, the gold doesn't have a conscious. It just is valuable.
It has the value we assign it because it's an inanimate object. And right now, society has assigned gold a very high value.
But the gold itself doesn't think of itself, like, it doesn't even, that question doesn't even make sense. It just is.
Yeah.
And if we can see gold ourselves as that's
just
the way we are. We have value, not because.
Look at this bar of gold.
What a loser!
This bar of gold can't never get paid. He's an incel. This loser incel bar of gold because it can't get laid.
By the way, I'll take 2 bars of gold, please.
Because I think what I've noticed in, like, some of the earlier comments was, like, an idea that you have to become something or move towards something. I have to escape being ordinary otherwise, but you're never going to, like, you have to break that belief system. That's what really helps you escape it, because you can become a millionaire and become all of these things, but if you don't heal the internal world, if you don't believe that you're good enough without that, it doesn't matter how far you go in the other direction.
Yeah.
You'll
always feel not good enough until you fix your internal world, no matter how.
Let me put a good example here, and I'll use Brent here because he's so brave. Brave Brent. When I was replacing the radiator on my 20-year-old Mercedes-Benz, the whole time I was thinking of Brent. I thought, if Brent were here, we'd get this done a lot faster. I'd bust a less few knuckles. I'd actually know what the heck I was doing. Because, these cars, Brent, and my level of success, or my definition of success, is not to become a master mechanic, but Brent's is. And I'm glad that Brent saw that as a level of success, because when I really had a car problem, I'm going to call on Brent. I'm going to tow my Mercedes down to Dallas and go, hey, it's broke, man. Can you help me out? I like tools. I love tools. I got all the tools to fix it. But man, I'm busting some knuckles, man. I'm telling you, the whole time I thought if Brent were here, we'd be so much better off. And I finally got it done and it works all good. But my goodness, what a hassle.
Okay, so is there anything we really need to watch before we sign off? Like,
no, we've talked about a lot, but you could spend all day in this video because they keep bringing up things that talk about not having a good inner game.
Is there
Maybe
any must watch
next
before we wrap it up?
Yep.
Is there any clip that's a must watch before we wrap it up, Tim?
No, nothing. No, it's just we've said it all. We're going to repeat
Okay.
ourselves again and again as we go through. Oh, we just got your test pattern, Ryan.
Well, maybe we cover it. Maybe we cover it again next week.
Yeah, you can keep diving in because there's lots of good stuff there. That's for sure.
Okay. Boom, baby. All right,
Yeah,
we're at the tail end then. That's our show for today. Inner game group. And you know what I love about this group is we've all had adversity, overcame it, and we've lived this actual process of realizing our inner value and then achieving success. But you get the inner value first, you get the inner belief first, and your outer circumstances do not define your value. They don't. And if you let them, it screws things up. You know, one way or another is going to screw things up massively and cause all sorts of problems. You are enough as you are. You have massive value as you are. You have the power to now, you've always had it. Maybe you haven't known it.
That's it.
You have the power to keep pushing forward, learning and growing, acquiring skills until you can get whatever you want. You can do it. Maybe you don't realize it, but I'm telling you right now, everyone here believes this. You have more power than you know. That's our show. Thank you.